Missions in video games are more than just a way to tell a story or give a player things to do. They're also a way to drive players to explore areas they might otherwise miss, to encounter aspects of gameplay they might otherwise not attempt. And for developers, they're often a way to push the development of new features, or in the parlance of the mission feature team, new verbs for their systemic mission design system. And one new mission or global event from MFT can lead to 10 others being created by designers on sandbox teams around the world. So on today's show, we're exploring 2 currently being developed, starting with Data Heist.
So Data Heist is a brand new mission coming to the Star Citizen persistent universe. It will be one of the first missions from the organization of Bit Zero. Bit Zero are an organization of hackers. They're kind of rich kids that have kind of taken on the hobby of hacking and trying to almost being Robin Hood. They want to do things, but again, they're a bunch of rich kids. They don't know, ripping off a merchant for such amount of money is even a big thing for that merchant.
So the player will take the mission, head to the location. In this case, we are using the UGFs. Once you're inside the facility, you'll have to gain access to the mainframe.
Now you can do that in multiple ways. We have hacking still in the PU, where you can use a crypto key. And there's also other methods that might be at the location that will help you access those mainframes, but I'll leave that for you to find.
Once you've hacked into there, you then have to allow the hacker into the system. And then from that point on, he will do all of the heavy lifting with the uploading of the data from the servers. But what you have to do is maintain the safety of those servers so that their upload can actually follow through.
We will then start to give you a couple of enemies populating the area because they're responding to, your invasion of their property.
They'll come in and you'll fight them. At the same time, there's going to be the owners of those servers. Although they're not on site, they actually have the ability to remote into their systems, and they're probably not very happy with the idea that you're trying to steal their data.
During the mission, you will find that some of these servers will start to overheat. Now that's because the people that own the location are deciding, we can't kick out this hacker from the location, but we can try and either halt you or stop you from getting the data.
They turn off the cooling on these servers. And so when the cooling's turned off, they're basically trying to melt down their servers, destroy the data. So they'd rather have a scenario where they destroy their data than let you have it.
You then have to look around the area, try and solve why they're overheating, and if you can try and stop that. That will be one of the big situations during this mission.
It basically just continues like that. You have a certain amount that you're supposed to have uploaded, and you need to defend them, and then you have to turn them back on, and it just continues like this until you either succeed or you fail.
Data Heist is a mission for morally grey people. I wouldn't ever say that it was for the good or the bad. In its first implementation, you will be infiltrating security locations, security UGFs. So at this point in time, it is unlawful.
It's a defend a thing mission, but we're adding some more interesting lore and complexity to this mission, where it's not just defending something from taking damage. We're adding this extra layer of gameplay for a player. It's how they can be destroyed. It's adding extra layers. So it's not just a physical destruction. It's also this concept of the data on this server being destroyed. So we wanted to take these two things and have them in one.
My favorite thing about the mission is possibly the things that it could open doorways for. The fact that it's the first mission for the Bit Zero is super exciting for me. I'm a fan of other video games that involve hacking, and having an entire organization revolve around hacking is super exciting for me.
The mission feature team's role isn't just to make new missions, it's also to make the tools that content teams will take on and give new life to.
One such way in Data Heist, for example, is a module that's focusing on randomization. They will target a random server in the room just to get you moving around the UGF so that it keeps you on your toes during the mission. But this can be utilized by other designers for powering anything to do with randomization as well. So instead of always seeing the spawns from the spawn closets being at the same time, 5 minutes in or anything like that, you could be kept on your toes.
And with a mission like Data Heist, that gives us several new tools in the toolbox.
And in addition to the standard missions that populate the verse, the mission feature team is always examining and reevaluating the global events that run throughout the year. Do they perform the way we intend they should? Not just in frame rate, but also in engagement, enjoyment, enchantment, entertainment. And if they're not, perhaps they need enhancement or extinguishment. And the new global event Blockade Runner hopes to be just a little bit of both.
Blockade Runner actually replaces Ninetales Lockdown. We analyzed Ninetales Lockdown and we looked at participation in that global event. And we also looked at what players did in it. So participation in Ninetales Lockdown wasn't actually that high. We realized there's no point maintaining this global event if no one plays it, We looked back at the other ones that we had made, like Xenothreat, and looked at the gameplay in those that players do engage with and they enjoy. And that was the aspect of going on those wrecks in Xenothreat, picking up the crates and delivering them. They enjoy this experience, they enjoy working together as a team to do it. So we thought, what can we do with that and make a new event? Something that players will instantly understand what the event's about. We came up with this idea of Blockade Runner.
Blockade Runner is a new global event that we've been working on. In this event, there's a criminal faction that sets a blockade around some of the space stations in the universe. This makes trade and travel between these stations problematic, and their goal in doing this is to prevent the trade of one specific material that is important for the refinement of spaceship fuel.
The idea is that a player will be called to help deliver a new commodity that is involved in the production of quantum fuel and deliver it from our LEO stations, like Everest Harbour, to its refinery sister stations. And we have to deliver a certain amount of this within a certain narrow amount of time.
This material has a short half-life, so if it's not stored properly at a specific facility, then it will expire and become worthless, and you'll have to try again.
When you arrive at the LEO, there'll be a blockade from criminals, and you will have to get through that blockade, land, buy this commodity as much as you can fit on your ship, then you'll have to take off, and then you'll have to brave the blockade again, and then QT to one of the refineries. On the way, you may be interdicted by more of these criminals who don't want you to get away.
Target destroyed.
And then on the other side, no blockade, but you'll have to get through that. Then you will land, and then you will sell. So there's this delivery loop for players. Not every ship will be best suited for dealing with these guys without, some escorts. So the idea is that players will also take this mission and support those other players in combat ships.
Maybe you delegate one person with the big tanker ship and others to fend off any enemies along the way. At its core, Blockade Runner is a combination of the cargo transport and selling and space combat. One of the things I like most about Star Citizen is the space combat. I've never really been much of an FPS player, but I do like space combat, and one of the big elements of Blockade Runner is space combat. The stakes are higher, so if you screw up, you don't just simply regenerate. You regenerate and have to buy all your cargo again, so watch out for that. As the dev, I've been playing this entirely by myself up till now. We're going to be going through some playtests soon, so we'll be able to experience the mission properly, but thus far I've been playing it solo with a ship that can both fight and transport.
What ship are you?
The Cutlass Black. It's the best ship for everything.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that missions like Data Heist don't just give players more ways to play, They also give mission designers more tools to play with. That, like every other aspect of Star Citizen, global events are continuously evaluated and refined and occasionally rebuilt and replaced when needed. And that Blockade Runner is just that, meant to replace the former Ninetales lockdown before the end of this year. Now, don't forget that there's just 3 weeks until CitizenCon 2953, the now 2-day event emanating from the Los Angeles Convention Center, where you'll get the biggest concentration of Star Citizen info, technology, features, visuals, and more, all beamed into your brains via Twitch. Or if you're there in person, by just following Mark Gibson around all day and asking about his Hercules voice. I can still hear it when I look at the C1. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thank you for letting us share the process of game development with you. And we'll see you all here next week.
So far, yeah. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the space combat, so that element works pretty well for me. Buying and selling cargo is fine too. Cut that part.